begin our ceremony.
Kareem haba b'Hashem Adonai. Blessed are those that come in the name of the Lord. Let's prepare to pray in accordance with your faith. Dear God, our Creator, today we're honoring veterans. Veterans have served the Constitution, enshrining our precious freedoms, which are a gift from God, our Creator. The veterans we honor today offered their very lives in the defense of our way of life. Let us each in our way, with our unique gifts, continue the path of good citizenship that such dedication deserves. It is the only true honor that we can bestow upon our veterans, is the way we live our lives as citizens of this great land. Shalom. Amen.
New man called him Sandy Kane. Few folks even knew his name, but a hero, yes, was he. Left a boy, came back a man. Still many just don't understand about the reasons we are free. Can't forget the look in his eyes, or the tears he cried as he said these words to me. All gave some gave all. Some stood through for the red, white, and blue, and some had to fall. And if you ever think of me, think of all your liberties and recall. Some gave all. No longer here, but his words are oh so clear as they echo throughout our land. For all his friends who gave us all, who stood the ground and took the fall to help their fellow man. Love your country and live with pride, and don't forget those who died. America, can't you see? All gave some gave all, and some stood through for the red, white, and blue, and some had to fall. And if you ever think of me, think of all your liberties and recall. Some gave all. And if you ever think of me, think of all your liberties and recall. Yes, recall. Some give all. Some give Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does the star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave? Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the
Take your seats. This is our 31st year, Post 101, sponsoring this Veterans Day Courthouse ceremony. And it's not the coldest one we've had, but it's competing. So I want to welcome everybody to this ceremony, and I want to, at this time, turn the MC duties over to Post 101 member and good friend, Iraq War veteran, Sam Redfern, Sergeant Sam Redfern.
Welcome, Missoula. Thanks for being here. I would, as an NCO, tell you to start running in place. Warm yourself up. Warm your neighbor up and lift your hearts and be warm today. We got great speakers, and thank you for being here. Our first speaker to give welcome to all of you is our great mayor here in Missoula, Montana, Mayor John Ingen. Thank you very much, Sam. I appreciate that. I've got about 45 minutes of material today, folks. Got to get started on that. It is indeed a pleasure to see all of you on a chilly Sunday, but it doesn't surprise me a bit here in Missoula, Montana, where I think we've figured out over the years ways to acknowledge all that we share in terms of vision and value, all that we share in terms of sacrifice, and our acknowledgement that we're not in this alone, and that when we're in service to each other, we are at our best, and that is part of what's at play today. Many of you know my dad was a veteran of World War II, and as I look around the crowd today, I see a few surrogates I'm thinking of. There's my friend Rondo, who was where he needed to be in World War II, and I see the folks who have been in Vietnam and Korea, World War II, Iraq, Afghanistan, all here, all acknowledging that we matter to one another. It's a big deal. The election, it turns out, ladies and gentlemen, is over. I don't know if you received that memo. And so my remarks now are not partisan in any way. There are lots of ways to serve our neighbors, our cities, our countries, our nations. One of those is serving in the military, and another is a route to public service, serving as an elected official. And I can tell you today that it is a pleasure to be sitting up here with a number of elected officials who have done great work not only for our places, but for our veterans, and chief among those today I'm going to acknowledge is my friend John Tester. He is unfortunately behind me, so you cannot see him. But I can tell you that one of the secrets of politics is that we don't work so that we can win elections. We win elections so that we can work. And John Tester, from the day he stepped foot in the United States Senate, on the day he steps back, he will continue to work for veterans all day long to acknowledge not only their service, but our obligation to those folks. So, today we celebrate service and sacrifice. We mourn our dead, honor our living, demonstrate compassion for those who still suffer the wounds of war. But most of all, we stand here in hope that we create a new brand of veteran that hasn't been to war, but has been about making peace. Thanks for being here today. Happy Veterans Day.
Thank you, Mayor Ingen. Our next speaker is a tremendous part of Montana history. Senator John Melcher. I almost said Melcher. I did that before. Senator John Melcher. He served in the Montana Senate, or as our U.S. Senator, for many years. But beyond that, he's a Purple Heart combat veteran who has served his nation before he served us in the Senate. And we're really honored to have you here, Senator.
I didn't feel as old as I am until I got here and found out I'm older than these other guys that have served in these more recent wars. I served in World War II and was in the infantry. Thank you very much. I was not an officer. I did get to be a buck sergeant for a while, but I learned a lot being in the military, being in the Army, and I want to tell you a story about Patton, General Patton. He was a great commander. He happened to be in charge of the 3rd Army. Our division, the 76th, was part of the 3rd Army. Patton was a great guy with tanks. He proved himself in North Africa. Eisenhower liked him, wanted to give him an army, did give him an army, 3rd Army, to go through Germany in the war, defeat the Nazi army. I learned something from this guy, Patton. He was known as Blood and Guts, his blood and our guts. He was very controversial. He got mad at an enlisted man in the hospital in Europe or in Germany, no, or in Italy, and slapped him. Eisenhower couldn't put up with that. He took his command away from Patton for several months. Kept him around, but eventually gave him back to the 3rd Army. What I learned from Patton was this: infantry on the front lines in Luxembourg, looking into Germany. Foxhole for where you live, where we live. And rather cold, about like today. Sometimes worse, sometimes better. The foxhole was our home right then. front lines. We looked over on Germany, and they looked over on us. Moved out of the foxhole. You got a warning shot from them, or as close as they could get. But they opened fire on us. They had us zeroed in. So you had to stay in the foxhole all day. Getting back to the General Patton, what I learned from him was this. We got an order one day, brought up by the people who brought breakfast to us. We were in the front lines, and so in the dark they brought us breakfast, a hot breakfast. That was a real treat there. One day the order came with the breakfast. All personnel of this army will wear a tie. None of us had a tie. So they brought along a brand new tie with the breakfast. And we put them on. That was the order. That was Patton's order. Those of us in the non-coms or non-commissioned officers, we ridiculed all these judgments of the hierarchy, including this. What a stupid idea. A brand new tie with all this modern paraphernalia we had on, all wool, to keep warm. But what I learned from the General that day and the days that followed was that if you had a tie on and you had it tied up, it sealed that collar to hold in your body heat. I felt that day and felt the wisdom of it, just common sense, really. And from that day forward, I quit bitching about General Patton and recognized him for what he was, a very practical person, knew what he was doing, didn't have to explain it to you, or he wasn't going to explain it to you. He just gave the order, we followed through, wore the ties, and we're better off for it. On a day like today, what better story could I tell you? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Senator Melcher. NCOs lead the way. Our next speaker is well known in Missoula. He's a mentor and a friend to many of us up here, including myself. He's been a veterans advocate for a long time. He heads the Post 101 American Legion, has organized this for many years. And he's going to come up today, Dan Gallagher, and speak about the theme of this year's Veterans Day service. Dan Gallagher.
The theme of this Veterans Day ceremony is you don't have to die to be a hero. Now, in many ways, we tend to equate heroism with death. One vivid example of that is relative to our warriors. The fact that of the nearly 1,000 Medal of Honor winners since America's Civil War, approximately 60% of them were awarded that honor posthumously. In paying tribute to the honored dead, we often refer to them, not incorrectly, as our heroes. But you don't have to die to be a hero, and Veterans Day is the perfect occasion to make that point. About a month ago, my daughter Erin and I traveled through the beautiful Shenandoah Valley and Blue Ridge Mountains of Virginia and West Virginia and North Carolina, where hundreds of thousands of Union and Confederate soldiers fought and tens of thousands of them died. It occurred to me then that for every Yankee and Johnny Reb who died there, there were many more who lived beyond the surrender at Appomattox and returned to the home they'd left to go to war. And they all brought back with them the memories of the war and the effects of war. And they would live out the remainder of their lives, the life that God gave them, as symbols of their cause and as pillars of the communities where they lived. When they came back, they were thought of as almost mythical characters who had once marched to distant battlefields and who had seen beyond the furthest horizon. They were heroes. Now, World War II preceded my birth, and I was barely old enough to know that there was a war going on in Korea. See, when I was a kid, most of the friends and neighbors that I knew who were war veterans were ex-doughboys, veterans of the Great War, survivors of World War I. Now, there was old Sherman Mao and Tiny Brown and so many others. And when they spoke of their war experiences, their talk was of mustard gas and trench warfare and Springfield rifles, of the bravery of men named York and Rickenbacker. I could close my eyes and see the Marne and San Miguel and all the other places, the faraway places that they spoke of. And from their songs, I learned that Tipperary indeed was a long distance away. But somehow these heroes of 1918 were still heroes to me and to most everybody in that valley. And they'd remain our heroes as they lived out their frequently flawed lives. And they weren't our heroes because of any medal-winning bravery that they'd performed. They were our heroes because of what they'd endured in war. Hands are cool here. What they'd endured in war and what they had stood for and what they symbolized as Americans. They lived to be our heroes. Civil War historian Bruce Catton wrote of what the veterans of that war came to mean to him and to the nation when he said that these old soldiers, simply by existing, had unfailingly expressed the faith we lived by. So on my recent trip back east, I went to Washington, D.C., and there I visited Arlington National Cemetery. In a deeply personal experience, I found the grave of Willie, one of my two closest buddies, killed in Vietnam about a month after we got in country. And as I knelt there, I thought of how much I had to tell him, some good, some not, about what had happened since the war. And that led me to think about all the other mutual buddies who returned from war. You know, there's so many of their stories, but needing to be told, waiting to be told, how these returning veterans came to fill a special spot in America's history and culture. Now, there are many tales of great successes among veterans, such as a sailor who saved his shipmates in the South Pacific after his PT boat had been sunk, then became President of the United States, and the fighter pilot in Korea who became the first American to orbit the Earth. But there are also tales of failure and tragedy that could be told, like that of the Pima Indian who helped raise the flag on Iwo Jima and then returned home to find poverty and prejudice and alcohol and died an early and lonely death. And there was the son of a great baseball player who returned from Vietnam to die of an overdose of the drugs that he'd become hooked on in war. Now, most of the veterans' successes, however, are less dramatic than Kennedy's or Glenn's, but they're just as meaningful. For example, the young sergeant who saw on the faces of the homeless orphans in Vietnam a vocation as a teacher in the schools across town, or the corpsman who heeded a call that he'd heard at a MASH unit in Korea to a lifetime practice in medicine as an ER doctor. But the stories of tragedy are just as tragic among the unknown veterans as among those of fame, like the tavern owner whose exposure to mustard gas caused him to suffer an abscessed leg until his death at the age of 70. And the Agent Orange exposed Vietnam soldier whose child was born with spina bifida. Now we have a new generation of veterans returning with great potential and with devastating problems. Multiple deployments, an obstructionist bureaucracy, the highest suicide rate since those statistics have been kept about our military. Fingers to work here. The American citizenry can't take its eyes off of the problems veterans face, nor can it ever forget the sacrifices our veterans have made, or what their experience symbolizes for all of us here in this place that we all call home. On Veterans Day, we remember and honor those who survived the war, and we recognize that for all they offer and all they represent, they really can be called our heroes. We honor their courage, realizing that courage is not confined to the battlefield. that every day simple anonymous acts of courage are making our world a better place. Americans know that through their continuing service and sacrifice, veterans have demonstrated that courage. Americans understand and take comfort in knowing that when our country is in need, there are Americans who will answer that call. Yet they know, having seen war, veterans more than most hunger for a world of peace, and they value and exercise the rights and freedoms for which they fought. In short, veterans are a living lesson in American history. Now, heroism can be defined in many ways, but as it was with those who wore the blue and the gray, as it was with the ex-doughboys who were our heroes during my young years, it's also true that today's veterans hold that same special place in our lives. They have lived to be our heroes. And so on Veterans Day, we pause and to thank and honor all who survived war and returned to live lives as parents and spouses, and workers and business people and teachers and medics and every other walk of life, and especially as symbols of America's heritage and reminders of the price of the freedoms that all Americans enjoy. And as we see the part that Americans veterans play and have played in our history and in our daily lives, we see the evidence all around us that can only lead to this simple conclusion. You don't have to die to be a hero. Thank you.
Though you didn't fall, you gave your all. You're a hero to me. All the years you were away are not forgotten by America today. Stood for the flag and liberty. In our heart, you did your part to keep our country free. Without you, where would we be? You're a hero to me. No necesitas caer to make a stand. No necesitas morir to be a hero. You're a hero to me.
All right, our next speaker is just an awesome gal. She has taken a lot of leadership in this community through a lot of other veterans. Across the nation, there are now veterans courts that are being established to work with veterans that have issues when they come home. And so our next speaker is Standing Master Brenda Desmond, who's the Standing Master of our Missoula Veterans Court.
Thank you. I'd like to thank Senator Tester for choosing to spend this chilly Veterans Day with us. I'd like to thank Post 101 and Dan Gallagher for organizing so well, once again, the Veterans Day commemoration for Missoula, and for inviting me to speak today. I'm not going to speak about Veterans Court, though. Today's theme is You Don't Have to Die to Be a Hero. I'm going to speak about veterans and jobs. We have many heroes in Montana. I'm sure most of you know that over 10% of Montana's population are veterans. In fact, we are the second highest state per capita in veterans. Montana has a proud history of military service. I have one simple message today. Let's honor our veterans by working harder to get them employed. Efforts have already been made to get more veterans employed. The unemployment rate among veterans has gone down, in part, no doubt, due to the work of Senator Tester in sponsoring the Vow to Hire Heroes Act, which, among other things, provides tax incentives to employers for hiring veterans, including disabled veterans. Many employers have made special efforts to hire veterans. As well, nationally and locally, businesses have worked on this issue through a number of projects, such as Hiring Our Heroes job fairs, the Wounded Warriors Project Warriors to Work program, and the construction industry's Helmets to Hard Hats program. However, despite significant gains nationally and in Montana, the unemployment rate among post 9/11 veterans remains higher than the general unemployment rate. Higher, but it should be lower. Hiring a veteran is not a charitable act. It is an investment in our future and a good business decision. Veterans bring strengths to the workplace, essential strengths, such as integrity, leadership, experience in teamwork, carrying out a mission, and performing under pressure. Let's get moving to improve this situation in Montana. If you are an employer, remember the skills and commitment veterans bring to the workplace. Look into veterans training, apprenticeship, and tax incentive programs. If you have friends and relatives who are employers, talk to them about the importance of hiring veterans. Work gives meaning to our lives, and veterans need that meaning. Let's honor our veterans by getting them back to work. We owe them a great deal. Remember, they put themselves in harm's way to keep us out of harm's way. Let's all think about what veterans have done for us, the sacrifices they and their families have made, and act to honor their commitment to us by remaining committed to them. Thank you.
Thank you, Judge Desmond. And I would ask all of you to look into the Missoula Veterans Court when you have time and look at what's going on there, as well as veterans courts around the country. Okay, we have a letter from Senator Baucus I've been asked to read. Dear friends, I'm sorry I could not be there in person to thank our veterans and their families for their service. In Montana, we are the proud home to more veterans per capita than almost any other state. After September 11th, 2001, Montanans volunteered for service at a greater rate than anywhere else. And many of those brave men and women are still serving overseas today. Veterans Day is a time to remember the sacrifices our service members are making right now and of the sacrifices made by those who served before them, sacrifices that helped build our country and the great state of Montana. It's time to bring our troops home from Afghanistan because we shouldn't be nation building abroad while we have such grave challenges at home. It's time we brought our troops home from Afghanistan. And when they come home, I'm going to keep fighting to make sure they're greeted with good paying jobs and the health care they have earned. You can count on me to keep fighting for all the resources necessary to honor our troops for the sacrifices they've made for our freedom. All the best, Max. And now we have our other senator from Montana, Senator John Tester. And John Tester serves on the Veterans Affairs Committee. And in that position, he has a lot of influence. The nation really listens to John Tester. I've been in D.C. and been in hearings where he's spoken about the issues facing veterans. And as was read in the letter, Montana has more veterans per capita than any state. So, Senator, thank you for being here on your Veterans Day and spending time with us.
Thank you all very much. It is a pleasure to be here. And I always learn something new from Doc Melcher every time I'm around. I always wondered why we wore ties. Now I know, and today's the day I didn't wear one. And just to let you know, on over the hump, about 150 miles, it's 10 below zero over there right now, so it's like summertime being here. I appreciate the opportunity to say a few words, and I want to thank Post 101 for organizing this important ceremony. Dan and the rest of the folks there, thank you very, very much. To all the service members and veterans that are here and who are here in spirit, we want to thank you for the service to this country. You know, the acts of heroism that our veterans have done in the field, in theater, or continue to be documented, and their sacrifices we very much appreciate, as well as the sacrifices that the families make of those service members. No words or deeds can fully repay our veterans for the sacrifices that they have made. But in days like today, we're reminded about how important it is to honor that service and to never forget it. I do serve on the Veterans Affairs Committee. I can tell you that when I first got to the U.S. Senate 6 years ago, I was appalled at what was going on with our service to our veterans. I'm talking about the kind of benefits that they were supposed to receive and not receiving them. I will continue to fight because it's the right thing to do, to make sure that this country lives up to the promises it makes our fighting men and women when they sign the paper to serve this country. So I want to thank you too for supporting our veterans. They're the folks out there that fight for us, that make sure that we have the freedoms that we have today. And quite frankly, we all know this country would be a whole different place if we didn't have the sacrifices that our veterans have made. God bless you. God bless America.
Thank you, Senator Tester. By the way, I invited Senator Tester earlier in the campaign on a lot warmer day here in the courthouse grounds, and didn't look like it was going to be, he's going to be able to do it. And the other day he called and said, his office called and said, would you like to have the senator come and speak? To which I said, duh. And so I really do appreciate you coming down and speaking. Thank you. And now we do the part where we try to involve the public in our Veterans Day ceremony by placing flowers on this honor table. Okay, we're near the end of our ceremony. We're going to be placing some wreaths on some stands, on 2 stands out here. But I want to just make a couple of announcements real quickly. As I said, this is the 31st year that Post 101 has done this consecutively, this Veterans Day ceremony. I want to thank all the people. I want to say thanks to Sheila for dubbing our music. I want to thank just a whole bunch of people, and I won't get into a lot of name calling. But I do want to also tell everybody that at the Old Post Pub, 103 West Spruce, which is our Post 101 business establishment, we'll be serving chip beef on toast free to all veterans for the rest of this day. So feel free to stop over at 103 West Spruce. Chip beef on toast, a favorite, all-time favorite, a culinary delight in the Army. It's also known as SOS. And SOS, by the way, I found this out. SOS is actually Latin for chip beef on toast. So anyway, we're going to conclude this ceremony with a wreath placement, and thank you. And Sam, if you want to.
I didn't get to introduce earlier in the program. Our chaplain of the day is Ed Sperry, and he's the Montana American Legion chaplain. And so we appreciate him coming all the way up from Stevensville for this. And he will give the benediction, and the colors will post. Chaplain Ed Sperry.
I have to say it's an honor to be up here today, a little old justice of the peace next to all that rank behind me. Let's prepare to pray. Almighty God, you have showered us with countless blessings. We thank you for this chance to be together in prayer and in thought and in reverence. We ask your continued blessing upon our nation and our community, our veterans, and above all, dear Lord, protect all servicemen and women who are today in harm's way. Shalom. Amen.
We're now going to place the wreaths and taps and conclude our ceremony. Could we retire the colors? And thank you all. Could we retire the colors?
With the retirement of colors, this now ends our ceremony for the day. Thank you for coming. God bless you. Drive safely. Thank you.
Well, I mean, it's just, look, the folks who have fought for this country and now come back have made this country in much part what it is today. And we just need to be very, very mindful of that every day of the year. I think today is a day that we give thanks to veterans, but quite honestly, we need to do it every day. And this is a great opportunity to say thanks.
Okay, thank you very much.